Hey y'all, Lance back with part 2 of the amazing jazz collection video series. Hopefully I can get all the rest of the records into this video. We'll see. I'll at least get the best of the best in here. Hopefully. Anyway, I'm making this video for a few different reasons. First and foremost, I want to point out that we pay well for very nice jazz records. We pay nice and well. We pay well for really, really good records of all types. If you got jazz, you got rock, you got soul, you got funk, you got reggae, you got hip hop, you got electronic, literally all different types of music. We are always on the market to buy especially large or large-ish collections of good titles in good shape, just like this one. Secondarily, I'm making this video kind of for myself because I want to not have a video diary exactly, but to showcase some of the best record collections that we buy going forward. I bought so many record collections in the past that I've just kind of processed and put out for sale and sold off over the years that I can hardly remember all of them. I have some vivid memories of the highlights, but yeah, it's really hard to keep track of what all we've done over the years, and I'm kind of making this video for that reason as well. And most importantly, I'm making this video to show off this amazing jazz record collection for those of you who live locally and want to potentially buy these records in the future. Like I said in the first video, I'm going to hang on to most of this stuff for a little while and really absorb the music contained in the grooves, because this collection is stunning. The context is amazing, and even the records that I haven't already heard in the past, I want to spend some time with. Especially the records I haven't heard in the past, I want to spend some time with, and even the records that I have heard, I want to listen to these particular versions of, because they are super clean. But before we get into that, please like this video and hit the subscribe button below if you like this kind of content. I will continue to make this kind of video if we get a good reaction to this one. So yeah, without further ado, here is part 2 of the amazing jazz record collection we picked up recently. This is what we're listening to in the background. This is the Horace Tapscott Quintet. The Giant is Awakened on Flying Dutchman. This is an absolutely amazing spiritual jazz record. There have been many reissues of this, but this is the real deal, and this is one of the many reasons I decided to really buck up on this collection. We spent a pretty penny on this collection. It was about 400 or so pieces, maybe 420. There's a little bit of chud in the mix that just kind of came along with the lot, but this kind of record is exactly why we bought it and why we paid as much as we did. And at the end of this video, I will divulge how much we paid for the entire lot, so you can just kind of put it into context and tell us whether you think an amazing impulse record, whether you think it was a good purchase or not. I mean, by the time yeah, you see the rest of the records in the lot, you should have a good idea of what a lot of records like this might be worth, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Obviously, at some point we're going to price everything out and put it up for sale, but yeah, right now, as I said in the previous video, I don't know if it was a good choice or not, but records like this do make me feel very confident. This is an OG mono Lee Morgan leeway on the Blue Note. Just unbelievable, beautiful stuff right here. Yeah, so that said, yeah, jazz records, we just don't see enough of them in the shop. So if you have jazz records for sale, or if you know somebody that does, we would love the opportunity to buy them from you. We travel far and wide to buy record collections of all types. And if you have jazz and other things, even better. This is a pretty cheap record, but it is a cool one. I highly recommend checking that out. It's Cheap Heat. This is, I believe, the folks over at I'd Buy That for $1 did an episode on that one. It's another quintessential Blue Note or Silver. Yeah, we've gone all over the country in search of good records, and we've traveled by car and airplane to remote locales, anywhere and everywhere. Traveling to buy records, I actually don't mind. You ready for a big one? This is a big one, y'all. Not only in terms of value, this one just keeps going up and up, but in terms of my particular taste. This is an Impulse record by Charlie Mingus. It's The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. This is a stunning, stunning album. You have to check this out if you don't know it already. And like I said, in the mix, there's also some kind of more common things that are not particularly exciting, but the best of the best in this lot is just why we had to go for this one, even though it was very, very expensive. And not only do we travel for individual collections and buy lots of records here locally in Los Angeles, we make buying trips to the Netherlands twice a year. We go to the Austin Record Convention twice a year as well. And we travel to New York for the WFMU Record Convention as well. And yeah, so we're not shy about traveling. Traveling and meeting new people is what half of what this journey is all about. I absolutely love that side of things. We've on a lark gone up to the Bay Area, Northern California, to pick up a record collection at the last minute. Someone called us once and said, I'm moving, I'm leaving tomorrow, and I need you to come buy these records. So we went up there and did that. I've bought all sorts of records from all over the place. I'll tell a few stories about some of the more memorable buys that we've done. So there were 3, maybe 4 super memorable Krautrock buys, Krautrock and Prague record collections that we bought. First and foremost, we bought Bill Vermet's record collection. Bill Vermet is a Chicago musician. He does, this is a big one too. Bill Vermet is a Chicago musician. He's a synthesizer. He's a synthesizer. He's a synthesist. He's a synthesizer guru. This Jackie McLean is literally the only record in this whole lot that came in a poly bag. I'm not sure who knew that this one was worth throwing in a poly bag and a Japanese inner sleeve, but poly-lined inner sleeve, I should say. But anyway, that's that, and another pretty big one coming up here next. Yeah, so Bill Vermet, an amazing gentleman in general, but also a very talented synthesist and musician from Chicago. His album Katha Visions was self-released in the early 80s, and a friend of mine, Steve Krakow, I believe, is the one who put us up on this record collection, told us that Bill was getting rid of all of his vinyl. Still had his synthesizer collection in the basement, which is the first thing we saw when Dave, the Chicago store manager, and I walked down into the basement, and I was just immediately blown away. And Bill takes us into this other room in the basement that had like kind of a sliding, it felt like a barn door. I have no idea why this exterior door was on this other room in this in his basement, but it was. So we walk in there and all the records are perfectly lined up. They're just on the shelves. And Dave and I, he's like, all right, there's the records, have a look, let me know what you think. Dave and I start digging through the records, and about 10 seconds in, after flipping through a few, he and I both look at each other and we go, and right then, the light bulb above us with the little string pull switch, it just blew up. The light bulb burnt out. And I was like, uh-oh, are we gonna get murdered down here? I knew better than that, but it was a little scary for sure. And the timing of that light bulb burning out was just unbelievable. Bill, of course, did not murder us. He replaced the light bulb, and we continued to dig through the collection, and we bought all of his records. And the most amazing, and Bill made a lot of money from that particular buy. The two unbelievable parts of it are that Bill Vermet, he had original stock copies of his Cathavisions album, and we bought the remainder of those. We sold the remaining stock copies and then ended up reissuing, another beautiful Lee Morgan there. We sold the remaining stock copies, and then we reissued the album on permanent records. That's long out of print, but streaming on all of the digital streaming platforms if you want to check it out. It's a really cool kind of post-punk ambient electronic record that, you know, honestly, and then oddly you got Nat King Cole in the mix. Anyway, it's a great album, and it was a really fun collection to have bought. The collection was Bill's own, of course, and the vibe of it was basically he bought every record that he could get his hands on, and he worked at a record store back in the day. So he was importing things and buying all sorts of amazing stuff that most people didn't even know about. And he would buy every record that had a synthesizer on it. So, you know, records from 1968 to 1985 or so, and almost everything had a synth on it, whether it was a completely electronic instrumental synthesizer album or a post-punk album that had synth on it. It was in there. There were minimal synth records and just like absolute crazy prog records. Yeah, it was a really, really fun collection to have bought. And anyway, that was that one. Oh, and getting the records out of that basement was quite a feat. Dave and I don't remember why this was the case, but we did not bring boxes with us. And I think it was at a time when I didn't live in Chicago, and so we didn't have our own vehicle. We rented some kind of hatchback to go pick these records up, and we didn't have any boxes. First and last time I go on a record buy without bringing boxes or making sure that the seller has boxes for us. So we had to get those records into this hatchback however we could, and it was dicey for sure. First of all, the weight from all of those albums, it was at least 1,500 records, maybe less, maybe it was 1,000, I don't remember. But the weight of them was really intense, and probably more than that little hatchback should have been handling. But the way we had them in there was just kind of stacked really precociously beyond what we could get in there, like pretty reasonably stable. So every stop sign on the way home felt like just fingernails on a chalkboard, and just it freaked me out. Anyway, the record survived. We got them in there nice and tight. This is another amazing Impulse title. Can't go wrong with Archie Shepp, not on Impulse anyway. And that was that collection. Right around the same time, we bought a record collection on the south side of Chicago, and this particular record collection had a lot of the same records that Bill Vermet's collection did, because this guy bought a ton of Krautrock and prog, mostly Krautrock. It was an amazing German record collection. Original Neu, original Harmonia, original Can, original Faust, etc. all the big Krautrock records. Most of them were in there, all the classics anyway. And that was one half of the collection, and the other half was all 80s, mainstream 80s R&B. It was quite the juxtaposition, and it was a really, really fun record collection to buy. The Krautrock was stunningly great, amazing condition too. Most Krautrock collections, people who bought, you know, Krautrock records back in the day were not generally your average partier, you know, mostly academics and scholars, etc. And this guy was a professor, I think, at one of the schools on the south side in Hyde Park. And he had an extensive CD collection, a lot of classical CDs and stuff, which we did not end up buying. That just was not the vibe for us at that particular time. So anyway, that collection was also awesome. Another Krautrock collection that all happened right around the same time, which the timing was unbelievable. I thought, oh, this is the beginning. Like, all these 60s and 70s records are going to start coming out of the woodwork. We're going to have an endless supply of Krautrock, prog, and psych forever now, and it's going to be amazing. Well, after that, those two and two other collections that we bought, the well dried up yet again, for the most part. The third one that happened right around the same time, talking about Krautrock collections mostly because we've had the opportunity to buy good Krautrock collections more than we've had the opportunity. Here comes a little grip of Pharaoh, by the way. Pharaoh played with John and Alice Coltrane, of course, and his stuff as the band leader is also absolutely amazing and really, really far out for sure. So anyway, another gentleman, as you know, I have been tracking band members of bands that I've been stoked on through finding original copies of their albums. Been getting in touch with, tracking down the band members and getting in touch with them for many, many years now, since probably the first few months of the shop in Chicago. Well, anyway, one of those particular people, I should say, was Carl Mack. Carl Mack was a musician, and he worked at some place in Rochester, New York. I forget if it was called the Rochester Guitar Center or not that Guitar Center, but some infamous musical instrument store in New York, and I believe it was in Rochester. Well, anyway, just the amount of Impulse records in this collection in immaculate condition is just unbelievable. Even in rough shape, these records sell for a decent amount of money. Clean, they're just almost impossible to find these days. So, Carl, he was in a band called Zenith Effluvium, and I contacted him to see if he had any original pressings of the Zenith Effluvium album. That record is awesome, but definitely not jazz. More of like a Zappa-esque kind of freaky DIY. That's somewhat psychedelic, but super experimental rock stuff. He was a big Zappa head, and it shows. Playful experimental rock. So Zenith Effluvium, as you might have guessed by their name, that's what they sound like. And Zenith Effluvium did an LP and a 45. We bought the remaining stock. He had a handful, a little grip of the original pressing left, so we bought the remaining stock, and he said, do you buy used records as well? And I said, yeah, of course, that's our main bag, actually. That's what we're generally doing all day, every day. This other thing is just kind of a side hustle and a passion project. So that's awesome. So anyway, a bunch of Chico on Impulse coming up here shortly as well. he said, well, I have a bunch of records that have just been sitting on a shelf for decades, and if you're interested in buying them, I'll send them to you. So he boxed them up and shipped them out to us, and they arrived at my house in a box that was probably 24 by 24 by 24. So we're talking like twice the size of a normal record, wide, tall, and deep. So inside that box is a U-Haul box of records, and there is just packing material like air bubble wrap, packing bubbles, etc. What was that one? Okay. Around this U-Haul box filled with some of the most amazing records you could ever possibly hope for. In that lot, there were also more Krautrock records. There were really great prog records. What else was in there? There was cool stuff like Red Crayola, original pressings of Red Crayola, Parabola, Variable Land, and yeah, just stunning stuff. Really cool private pressings. Carl had amazing taste, and he bought really good records at a time when not a whole lot of other people were buying that kind of stuff. So we bought that one. That was an amazing record collection, and he sent them to us on spec, and our offer was good enough to make him very happy, and he sold us the lot. So that was that collection. And last but not least, there was the Las Vegas Krautrock record collection. So a regular customer of ours was buying some Krautrock records off of a gentleman on eBay. And through those transactions, he was getting things that were not as described, that were the wrong pressing. The condition was not what it was supposed to have been, etc. So he struck up a conversation with a seller on eBay, and he was like, hey, like, what's the deal here? Like, do you have more of this kind of stuff? Because he only had a handful of titles online. And the seller said, yeah, it's this massive record collection. You know, I ended up with it because I married a woman who had it, and now she wants me to help her get out of it. It was her ex-husband's record collection, right? So anyway, that collection was 1,000 records, and it was $10,000 and the records were pretty amazing. There were some really heavy hitters in the mix, but there were also some pretty chuddy prog records, and like some AOR, like some pretty basic stuff. And here, I'm gonna dip down and grab some more records. We're still just rolling right through this without separating it at all. We're just rolling right through what we have in this collection here to just show it off. There's a handful of BS records as well. But anyway, the good stuff was good enough to go for it. So I bought the collection, and the gentleman wanted cash. So I don't generally go out on record buys with $10K worth of cash in my pocket. It just seems like a pretty bad idea to be doing that sort of thing. So I said, all right, no problem. Let's go down to the bank. I'll do a withdrawal and get the cash for you. All the while, I'm like, I'm here by myself. As soon as I have this cash, this massive guy could just take the cash, and that would be that. And all I would have, he could murder me. The other video ended up, or this other story ended up with me talking about getting murdered too. I guess anybody who buys records always has like just at least a slight fear of going out on a buy and getting murdered. Because that's, I guess, always a possibility. Hopefully this part of the video doesn't end up in a documentary sometime about the record store owner that got murdered when he went on a record buy. If it does, you're welcome, director of said documentary, because that's a really great alignment of the stars. So anyway, he's lording over me as, oh, here we go. Still, this record collection just keeps on giving. Here we are, like maybe 3/4 of the way through, and Dorothy Ashby Afro harping. That's what I should have on in the background here. This Taurus Hapscott's really hitting the spot though, isn't it? Anyway, let's prop this up in the background because that's one you're looking for. By the way, if the record collection you are sitting on, whether it's yours or a family member's or whatever, it's another fantastic Jackie McLean record on Blue Note. So if you have these kinds of records in your possession, not an OG, but wow, just one of the best jazz records of all time, obviously. If you have these kinds of records, please drop us a line. This is exactly the kind of stuff we want to buy all day, every day. You ready for another big one? If this is in your collection, look out. This didn't used to be that expensive, not even that long ago. We would put this out in the shop for 30 bucks. It is no longer a $30 record. This thing is spendy now. So anyway, yeah, that's that. Let's see, where should we put this? Probably not in a precarious, let's not mess around. The gentleman that I'm buying the records from is at the teller's window with me, just lording over me. And he's over 6 foot tall, probably weighs like, 300 pounds or more. And the teller is looking at me like I'm being held up. Like he's got a gun in my side and he's making me take $10,000 out of the bank. And she's like, "Are you okay? Is everything gonna be all right? Like, do you need me to call the police? Blah, 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 blah." And I said, "No, it's fine. We're gonna be fine, hopefully." And yeah, so we got the cash out, paid the man, went out for dinner. Well, he went out for dinner. They didn't have anything vegetarian on the menu aside from a side salad for me. So I had a beer and I immediately hit the road and drove all the way back to LA with 1,000 amazing Krautrock and Prague records. And the trip started with me leaving LA earlier that morning. So I left LA in the morning. I bought a record collection in Las Vegas. It's about a 4.5 hour drive. And I immediately drove right back to LA to get back to work. And that has been kind of the story of my life. Like, get the records, get them home, price them up, put them out for sale, repeat. And that's why I'm gonna be sitting on these bad boys for a little while, because this record collection is just beautiful. And I really want to spend more time with this lot than I have with some others. I felt like for a moment there I was kind of sorting the wheat from the chaff, and then I got sidetracked and started putting the wheat in the chaff pile. So either way, you're getting to see all of these records. Oh, another beautiful Dorothy Ashby record. If you like Alice Coltrane and you're not already familiar with Dorothy Ashby, she's another jazz harpist. You got to check her out. She's amazing too. That particular record, Afro Harpin', which you can barely see poking out the back there, is one of my favorites of hers. And that is yet another reason why I decided to go for this collection, because it's just so much beautiful stuff in such great condition. And we're not even at the end yet, but I think what we will do is leave some of these things for the imagination. You've seen the majority. You can only imagine what else might be in this collection. It's just stunningly beautiful. Not a big record, but a great one. Stunningly beautiful jazz records in immaculate condition. Just a time capsule type situation that just never happens. Not these days anyway. Right on. Is there one more? Maybe we'll do a couple more. We got Donald Byrd, we got Chet Baker, we got Donald Byrd. Let's let's bid you adieu. We're near 30 minutes. Most importantly, we got Dorothy Ashby, Afro Harpin. Thank you very much for subscribing to our channel, for liking this video. I appreciate your feedback. And now I will tell you that for this lot of records, we paid $16,000. Maybe that was a good choice by my estimation. Maybe it wasn't. You tell me. And if you have records like this, I'll buy this exact same collection for $16K all day. Well, until I evaluate all of these individually and see how we did. Maybe I wouldn't do it again. I don't know. Probably though. Just amazing stuff. Thanks again. Lance from Permanent Records here. Until next time, Afro Harpin'.